Namo Adida Phat. Thanks so much for joining me for our daily practice check-in. Listen, listen, listen. This wonderful sound calls us back to our true home. The first one, mindfulness training. Aware of the suffering caused by the destruction of life, I vow to cultivate compassion and learn ways to protect the lives of people, animals, plants, and minerals. I'm determined not to kill, not to let others kill, and not to condone any act of killing in the world, in my thinking, or in my way of life. For our Dharma lessons, we're reading More Than Mindfulness, Widening the Field of Practice by the Monastics of the Thai Forest Sangha. And we're continuing today in a talk by Ajahn Viradamo called Disempowering Difficult Mind States Through Contrast. The craving for an experience to go away, vibhava tanha, is very powerful. It comes from idealism. It comes from biology. I don't want this pain in my knee, or whatever it might be. That's an important aspect of our conscious experience that you have to understand vibhava tanha, and that is the Buddha's recommendation if you're going to be free. You need to understand this whole operation in consciousness. You need to see it arising and not get sucked into it and believe in it. You need to investigate what letting go really is. You need to understand what letting go is, or to understand what letting it be is. That's important. It can't just be dismissed as, I shouldn't be like that, because that is not wisdom. That is idealism. If that's true and makes sense, then meditation should somehow serve my understanding or my increased capacity to understand that aspect of suffering. If my meditation doesn't somehow serve that, what's the point of it? It's like going to the movies. That was a nice experience. But meditation, samadhi, whatever you call it, should serve that very existential problem that arises for us as humans. One of the things I like to think about in terms of meditation is contrast. That if I have social fears, have anxiety, for example, obviously I don't want them there. When they arise, I don't want them. I want to resist them. I don't want to get lost in them. That resistance exacerbates them because they are never really known as an object. So I become the subject that is always fighting these things. It's not so much the fear that is the problem, it's the resistance to the fear. It's not the shyness that's the problem, it's the not knowing of the shyness. It's not the vulnerability that is the problem, it is the not wanting of the vulnerability. Without the resistance, the not knowing and the not wanting, I can see my own suffering. Once I've seen that, how would meditation serve that in ordinary life? The idea of contrast is that you see, in this instance, resistance. What is the contrast to resistance? It is welcoming or acceptance. If your meditation is about welcoming rather than getting something, you're creating mind states which would then serve resistance. You could say, okay, I'll meditate being witness to the end of the out-breath with the feeling of welcoming. How would that feel? That's another way of looking at the training of the heart. The tuning analogy is nice too. You tune into something like tuning into a radio station or the voices in a choir. As monks, we tune into each other's voices while chanting. If we tune into these states of mind and sustain them, then that will serve other parts of our life because I have this kind of attunement. It's not so much an achievement. It's intuitive. It's not very esoteric. In meditation, if I could say to myself, what would welcoming feel like? If I welcomed the in-breath, what would the tone of the mind be there? I tune into that. Then I use the end of the out-breath, or the breath itself. I'll practice awareness with breathing with this quality of mind called welcoming. If I do that with the in and out breath, then my experience of life has a certain tone to it. That tone will help me as I resist things, as I try to repress things, or as I try to get rid of things. It will help because it has created a contrast. That kind of meditation is not absorbing into anything. It's about ordinary life, and it's tremendously helpful. Meditation must serve us all the time. It can't just be a separate activity, divorced from the reality of our experience. May all beings be well. May all beings be happy. May all beings be at ease. Namo Adira Phat. Thanks so much for joining me today.